Welcome back to Legend Maker, my series of videos where I talk about the Umas who could sing the song Legend Changer. Legend Changer is a concert that plays in the Uma Musume mobile game. It is sung by 16 singers who are representing IRL racehorses who have come from the JRA. Last time I told the story of Mr. CB, this time I will be telling the story of Symboli Rudolf. Now before we get to the actual video, I just want to say two things. Number one, I will be retelling what are the criteria you need to be in Legend Changer. Number one, you must be a Classics Triple Crown champion. That means either win the Classics Triple Crown or the Classics Triple Tiara. You have to win all three of them. You can't win only one of them. Number two, you must be an international pioneer. A horse who has run abroad and has made such a huge impact on the international stage that they either put Japan on the map or they became a pioneer who have started the campaign on the international stage. Number three, you must be an idol horse. Idol horses are horses who have revived the horse racing scene. I'm really sorry TM Opero fans and Silent Suzuka fans, but they are not in Legend Changer. TM Opero was absolutely hated in his time and was not beloved like he was in this day and age, and Silent Suzuka was an unfortunate accident. They do not meet the criteria to be a singing Legend Changer. The closest one that most of you guys have mentioned was Vodka, but even then I would categorize Vodka as an idol horse. But not just her, because the reason why she was really good is not only was she strong, but she had an amazing rival called Daiwa Scarlet. So if Vodka gets Legend Changer, Scarlet would need Legend Changer, and even then, both of them, despite being very good horses, did not revive or revitalize the love and interest for horse racing. Second of all, last time I did say I was going to stick to English sources, but I changed my mind. From this video onwards, I'll be using also Japanese sources because I realized the English sources are missing a lot of information that the Japanese sources have. I'm going to be using a translation tool and extrapolating from all this, so it's not going to be perfect, but if I make any mistakes in my statements, please let me know in the comment section below. I really appreciate it if you would correct me on my mistakes. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. So, my bubblegum fellows, I hope your wonder is acute, and let's begin the dream journey of one of the Grand Cheval of the JRA, the one who will transcend every horse by taking the top road and achieving the winning ticket with his win variation. The Emperor, Symboli Rudolf. Being funny is really hard. Symboli Rudolf is Japan's fourth ever Triple Crown champion, winning the Classics races exactly 1 year after the turf expert, Mr. CB. What really distinguishes him from his predecessor is the fact that Rudolf was the racer with the most G1 wins during his time, with only a couple of horses being able to tie with that later on, and after almost 31 years, in 2015, his record was finally broken. Not only that, but most of his victories were attained in an 8 wins win streak, and even after when that streak was broken, he still continued to excel in his career by winning 5 other races, with 4 of them being G1 races. He was the peak of racing in his time, and became a horse who has left his mark on the history of the JRA. So, without further ado, let's start out with his beginnings. Symboli Rudolf was born in the Symboli Bokjo, a ranch known for breeding horses who have the blood of the Symboli clan, whose bloodline dates back to around the 1940s in both France and Britain. His sire is Partholon, who was the leading sire, that is, the leading breeding stallion, of Japan at the time, and his dam was Sweet Luna, the daughter of Speed Symboli, a horse that was known for being one of the few racers to have put Japan on the map when it comes to horse racing on a global scale. Before Rudolf was even born, he had 3 siblings that were foaled by Luna, one of them being Symboli Friend, who had only 1 successful race in the KO High Spring. The problem with these 3 is that, despite Symboli Friend being called Symboli Friend, they were known for having a bad temperament, which resulted in all 3 of them not having a successful career. Tomohiro Wada, the owner of Symboli Ranch, had Partholon and Luna pair up one more time, and in 1981, the prince of the Symboli farm, Symboli Rudolf, was born. When Rudolf was born, they knew that he had potential, because as soon as he was born, it took only 20 minutes before the foal was able to stand up on his own. During his time on the farm, he was nicknamed Luna, not only after his mother, but because of the crescent moon-shaped mark that was displayed on his forehead. Compared to his siblings, Rudolf's temperament was not as bad. Rudolf would spend his time as a foal at the Symboli Ranch, which doubles as a training center alongside it being a breeding farm. When he reached the age of 2, he would then start his training alongside the many horses in the ranch. After that, he will take his first steps to becoming a legend. And like most competitors, That goal is achievable through one singular achievement known as the Classics Triple Crown. Rudolf would participate in his maiden race on July 23, 1983 at the Niigata racecourse. It was later stated by his jockey Yukio Okabe that Rudolf ran a 1,600 meters race in 1,000 meters. After the maiden race, Rudolf was then sent back to the Symboli farm where he trained a bit before returning to the Miho Training Center in early October. After that, he participated in the Icho Stakes on October 29th for his second race. After the race, this time it was Rudolf's trainer, Yuji Nohira, he said that he saw Okabe's riding in the race and said that he saw them run a 2,400 meter race at 1,600 meters. For his third and final race of the season, Rudolf originally was going to race in the Asahi High Sansai Stakes, a race known for being a junior championship race. But his team decided to go for an open race instead on November 27. The reason for that was because on that day, on that very same racetrack, there was a certain race that was being held. That race was called the Japan Cup, an international race that Japan holds to invite racers from around the world to compete in their country. Nohira would explain this decision as a personal desire to show the world that Japan could produce incredible racehorses alongside the rest of the world. It was a way to show the upcoming Rudolph's potential before the grand international race, to make a statement that Rudolf in his next year will become not only Japan's fourth Triple Crown champion, but also win that year's Japan Cup. As his third year rolled around, Rudolf encountered a slight problem. You see, Okabe is his jockey, but it's not uncommon for jockeys to ride multiple horses in a single season. Around that time, Okabe was also jockeying another horse known as Bizen Nishiki. Nishiki was a horse that was older than Rudolf. He started early and was able to accumulate a lot of experience, which is shown with his 4-race win streak. That in itself is not the problem. The problem is that both Rudolf and Nishiki were scheduled to race at the Yayoi Show, a trial race that is needed to participate in the Triple Crown's classic races. If one, the winner, or even some of the placers, are guaranteed a good gate for their races in the Satsuki Show. Not only that, but Nishiki was also scheduled to race in 2 of the crowns following the Yayoi Show. Of course, this caught the attention of the media, who were already assuming that Okabe would end up choosing the more older and experienced Nishiki. To their surprise, he didn't choose Nishiki, but Rudolf, stating how there was not even a choice to begin with. And that choice turned out to be the right decision. Rudolf won the Yayoi Show by a 1 1/4 length lead against the favorite Bizen Nishiki. He also did that while being posted at gate 12, which means Rudolf had to run a longer distance than the horses that were positioned in the inner gates. Unfortunately, Rudolf would sustain a minor injury that happened during his run in the Yayoi Show. Despite that, his injury wasn't bad enough to the point that it hindered him too much, so after he recovered, he and his team started to undergo harsher training so that they can make up for the time that they lost. After that, he would confront Nishiki once again at the first stage of the classics, the first crown, the Satsuki Show. But first, there is something that must be mentioned about this year's classics. Prior to the year Rudolf started his classics races, most of the races in Japan didn't have the grading system that the rest of the world had. During Mr. CB's era, this grading system has yet to be implemented into Japan. It was only a year after, in 1984, that the classics races were classified as G1 races, which are the pinnacle of races in horse racing. While Mr. CB was recognized as a Triple Crown champion, he wasn't a champion under the new rule system, which is exactly what Rudolf and his team were aiming for. With G3 being the lowest and G1 being the most prestigious, the significance of the races of Japan have been raised to a higher level. Not to say G2 and below are not won by the skillful. An example of this would be in the future, where Mejiro Bright won the Stayer Stakes, which is 3,600 meters in length. G1 races are usually recognized as the races that have a deep history and importance in whatever country they're in. And for Rudolf, if he wins the Satsuki Show this year, he would be the first racer to win the first crown as a G1 race. The Satsuki Show is known as the Test of Speed, a race that challenges a contestant's speed and agility. It's a race that is run at approximately a distance of 2,000 meters in length, and it takes place at the Nakayama Racecourse in Funabashi, Chiba. The Satsuki Show is a race that both 3-year-old colts and fillies can participate in during the month of April. And now, both Rudolf and Nishiki were planning to win it. Unlike in the Yayoi Show, Rudolf is the favorite this time. But despite this reversal of roles, both of them don't have any plans in giving up the first crown. So, they listened to the fanfare, got into their starting gates, and the Satsuki Show begins. During the race, Rudolf was able to maintain a spot in 3rd place throughout the entire race. It was only on the 4th corner that he finally made his move. While running down the home stretch, it was here that the race of 18 became a one-on-one duel. with Rudolf and Okabe against Bizen Nishiki. The both of them were racing down the straight on the outside, and while doing so, both Nishiki and Rudolf collided violently with each other due to Okabe making an aggressive move so that Rudolf can go faster. But despite this collision, Rudolf did not slow down. He would run past the finish line, with Rudolf winning the Satsuki Show with a 1/1/4 length lead, securing himself the first crown of the Classics, while also setting a record of 59.2 seconds. At the award ceremony, Okabe did something that most people would consider either arrogant or ingenious. He lifts a single confident finger up, stating that he won the first crown and that the other two crowns were next. In the future, this will be replicated by Yutaka Take and Takayuki Yasuda. They would copy this very same gesture when they won a classic crown. But despite their great achievement, Okabe was unfortunately barred from jockeying for 2 days due to the movement that led to the violent collision. But since it was only 2 days, it wasn't that much of an issue. After all, with the first crown down, all that's left is the second crown, the Japanese Derby. The 1984 Derby was a particularly special one, since many fans have taken to calling it the SB Derby, in anticipation for Symboli Rudolf and Bizen Nishiki's clash. Taking place at the Tokyo Racecourse in Fuchu, Tokyo, it is a race that is ran at a distance of approximately 2,400 meters in length, where 3-year-old colts and fillies would be able to participate in late May or early June. Of course, like last time, Rudolf was the favorite. There were 21 total racers, with several having pulled out for many reasons. It was considered the lowest number of participants at the time. Not only that, but the condition of the turf was not too great as well, due to the late spring cold wave and the snowfall that affected the track. It was because of the turf's bad condition that dirt had to be put onto the track to level out the field. But due to the dirt being mixed in with the turf, this gave horses who excelled with power, who are able to push on the dirt so that they can propel themselves forward, the advantage, while those who excel with speed, those who did not have the sufficient power to push themselves from the dirt, a disadvantage. It's fortunate enough for Rudolf that he excelled in both of them. So, Rudolf gets into the Tokyo racecourse alongside Bizen Nishiki, and he listened to the fanfare, got into their starting gates, and the 51st Japanese Derby begins. The race begins with Suzumak, Fujinofun, and Suzuparade running in the lead. All three of them were considered very powerful horses, but that didn't deter Rudolf in the slightest. On the far straightaway, Okabe signals Rudolf to begin his spurt, but to his surprise and the crowd's confusion, Rudolf did not respond at all. Unlike in the Satsuki Show, Rudolf didn't move up to the front. He just ignored Okabe's instructions and kept his position. That was until the final stretch, grabbing his own bit by his teeth before overtaking the three in the lead. Rudolf would confidently secure his second crown. Unfortunately for Bizen Nishiki, he ended the race far back in 14th place, many speculating that his poor showing was due to the dirt that was put on the track, and this hindered his lightness and focus on speed. This would be the last we see of Bizen Nishiki in Rudolf's career. At the award ceremony, Okabe held up 2 fingers, signaling that he and Rudolf have claimed 2 of the crowns. And now, all that's left is to take the last one. Later on, Okabe would state his experience of the race. Rudolf taught me how to race, he would say, talking about how it was Rudolf who called the shots during the race, instead of Okabe himself. However, Okabe's claim of getting the 3rd crown wasn't exactly true, since after the race, Tomohiro Wada wanted to have Rudolf run overseas. He had connections with European trainers and breeders, and he planned to use those connections to bring Rudolf to the international stage. Wada wanted to bring Rudolf to the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes, which were held in Britain, but he would later change his mind, thinking that Rudolf had what it takes to conquer a more prestigious race, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe.
Here comes Dancing Brain, firing down the centre of the track.
Here comes Monsieur on the near side.
Ligne pour la victoire maintenant avec Keeping Pack qui se défend bien.
It's Nakayama Fest to the leader.
Sur un Master Stop qui est 3ème. Orfèvre qui a l'avantage sur les Mia qui tente de revenir à son extérieur. Orfèvre sur les Mia. Orfèvre sur les Mia. Orfèvre sur les Mia. Orfèvre sur les Mia.
The Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe is one of the most prestigious races in horse racing history, but this race holds a particular spot in Japanese horse racing history. It is Japan's most grandest desire because for many years, this race has eluded Japan, with only a couple barely missing first place. And in this era, where those second places still haven't been made, Wada wanted Rudolf to get first. But before he can execute those plans, he had Rudolf race in the Takamatsunomiya Cup, which then Rudolf would finally begin his overseas campaign by racing in the Budweiser Million at Arlington Park in the United States. These dreams were grand. So grand that Wada wanted to share them with the rest of Japan. He explicitly told every single media outlet that was willing to listen to him, with newspapers stating Symboli Rudolf to make overseas trip to the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. This was Tomohiro Wada's great plan. That was until July, because he noticed something during training. Rudolf seemed to be acting strangely. After taking some time to observe the horse, it was then that he realized that Rudolf had developed an injury to his right shoulder. And not only that, but he would apply more pressure on his right leg than his left. It was clear as day what happened. Rudolf was hurt, and for his safety, he needed to rest. And since the quarantine conditions needed for him to run at the Arlington Park racecourse were not approved, Rudolf and his team would stay in Japan. And all those grand plans to run overseas were cancelled. The team would then announce the overseas expedition is cancelled. The autumn campaign will begin with the Kikkasho. So, with those plans thrown out the window, the team decides to focus fully on Rudolf's training, preparing for the third and final crown. After recovering from his injury, Rudolf would then enter the autumn season fully refreshed. But before participating in the Kikkasho, he would race in the St. Laikinen, winning the race in record time, dominating it. After that, he finally took his first steps to becoming a Triple Crown champion. But before that, something particular happened. Rumors have started to circulate around the horse racing community. After his win at the St. Laikinen, it was noted that multiple contestants who had the right to race in the Kikkasho pulled out of the race. There were many reasons and statements as to why they did so. The trainer of Onward Camelon, Kazuma Nihon Yanagi, who finished second in the St. Laikinen and third in the Satsuki Show, stated during a post-race conference, No, we absolutely cannot go to the Kikkasho. We have one truly great horse. We'll focus on races suited to his abilities from now on. Additionally, jockey Futoshi Kojima, who is now a trainer, who rode Sakura Crown, who finished 7th in the Kikkasho, exclaimed in the waiting room, "That horse is a monster." Everyone was terrified of the soon-to-be emperor. Despite this fear, or even maybe being empowered by it, he enters the Kyoto racecourse to take on the final crown, the Kikkasho. The Kikkasho is the third and final crown, the longest of the classics races. It is ran at a distance of approximately 3,000 meters in length in the Kyoto racecourse in Fushimi, Kyoto, and 3-year-old colts and fillies can take part in the race. The most distinguishing aspect of the Kikkasho, and subsequently the Kyoto racecourse, is its 200 meters hill that many racers have to overcome in order to even run the home stretch. But that hill that many racers feared will not hinder Symboli Rudolf in the slightest. So, this is it for him. The last crown before he becomes a Triple Crown champion. And he will become one. That is what he, Okabe, and the rest of the team have known since the very beginning. The fanfare plays, the racers got into their starting gates, and the Kikkasho begins. As the race started, Rudolf kept to the middle of the pack. He, alongside many of the other racers, proceeds to climb up that hellish 200 hill with great pacing. On the third corner, Rudolf was then blocked by a wall of racers, preventing him from making any moves. But he and Okabe didn't panic and just waited for the right opportunity. And that opportunity finally showed itself. On the final stretch, Rudolf broke out, and as he blazed down the track, he passed Goldway and secured his third and final crown by a 3/4 lead. Symboli Rudolf became not only a Triple Crown champion, but he accomplished it undefeated, winning every single one of his races from his debut all the way to the Kikkasho. He would also become the first ever Triple Crown bearer to have been crowned after the introduction of the grading system, demonstrating to the world his achievement of winning the top races of the classics. Of course, at the ceremony, Okabe finally proved that his bravado all the way back in the Satsuki Show was not just simple boasting. From the moment he met him, he knew that Rudolf was different, that he was a special racer. So, with immense pride and accomplishment, Okabe lifted his third and final finger of the classics, demonstrating that he and Rudolf are Triple Crown champions. Symboli Rudolf would become Japan's 4th ever Triple Crown champion. Okabe felt exhilarated because not only did he back up the statements he did during the 2 previous crowns, but also because he and Rudolf became Triple Crown champions just a year after Mr. CB. This just proves that Rudolf was an amazing horse. The greatest, even. People were calling him the Emperor, the royal child of the Symboli ranch, and maybe they were correct. Rudolf is an emperor, the emperor of racing. If he can achieve the Triple Crown undefeated, he can surely win each and every one of his races that follows, perhaps even conquer races beyond Japan, overseas, in America. Unfortunately for Okabe and Rudolf, this was only just wishful thinking, because their reign would come to an abrupt halt. Because the one who would bring them back to reality, the one who would dethrone the emperor from his throne, he is a challenger who is waiting to make his move in Symboli Rudolf's next race. This challenger isn't anyone new. In fact, they're a very familiar face. That challenger is known as Katsuragi Ace. Just a week after the Kikkasho, Rudolf and his team would participate in the Japan Cup. The 4th Japan Cup was going to be one of the biggest races in JRA history, since this would be the first time 2 Triple Crown champions would be facing each other for the first time. And, of course, it's another familiar face. It's Mr. CB. The 1983 Triple Crown champion, last year's champion, is participating in this year's Japan Cup. Not only him, but Katsuragi Ace was there as well. And this time, he will make history. Since the last time we saw him, Katsuragi Ace has been keeping busy. After the grade system was implemented, his team decided that races of long distances weren't suited for him. They decided to stick with medium-length races to maximize his performance. So while he took a break from racing, he and his team focused most of their time training his aptitude to those medium distances. When his 4th year came around, he came back to the turf. Although he did start off strong during his first race in the Naruo Kinen, he would go on a 3-win streak, where he would win the Sankei Osaka Stakes and the Keihan High, in which he was the favorite in both. His 3rd win was at the Takarazuka Kinen, a G1 race that the majority of the racers can only participate in through a fan poll. On June 3rd, Ace would be the favorite of the entire race, and he would win the race, a quarter length ahead of Suzuka Koban. For the first time in his career, Katsuragi Ace won a G1 race. Despite having defeated many racers of the older generation during his 3 races, he still faced poor opinion from the masses, with many fans calling him the shadow of Mr. CB, due to said horse not being able to participate in the season due to leg problems. Even with all this debasement thrown at him, he still decided to race. His next stop? The Takamatsunomiya Kinen. If that name sounds familiar, that was the same race Rudolf was supposed to participate in, but would ultimately end up pulling out of. Ace dodged a bullet with that one, but soon after he would realize that it was not over, since the reason Rudolf pulled out was due to the poor track conditions. If you remember back then, Ace lost the Satsuki Show due to that very same reason. He would place 5th, which would only cement his terrible standing and reputation among race fans. After summer break, regardless of how he was viewed, Ace and his team had high expectations for autumn, because due to the implementation of the grading system, the Fall Tenno-sho was shortened from a monstrous 3,200 meters to 2,000 meters, turning it from a long distance to a medium distance race. Of course, since Ace was training for this very affinity, he and his team were going in with high spirits. But before that, he would participate in the Mainichi Okan, where for the 2nd time in his life, he defeated his rival, Mr. CB. This gave the team even more confidence, thinking that this time, he would not only defeat his biggest rival, but he would defeat him in a G1 race, the Fall Tenno-sho. How naive they were, because despite all his efforts, Ace was unable to keep up, only able to place 5th. The racer he lost to? Mr. CB. Of course, because it was Mr. CB, Ace's discounting would continue, with many fans stating how he only won the Takarazuka Kinen because Mr. CB wasn't there. Despite the continued debasing of Ace's accomplishments, he and his team didn't let it get to them. In fact, this would just light a fire within the racer. If they think a nobody like him should know his place, then he would rebel against that notion. The masses seem to love his common sense defying rival, so he will do the same. he will become the loser who became a champion, the one who toppled the crown bearers. After all, Ace is many things, but a quitter he is not. So they set their sights on the next race, the Japan Cup. Symboli Rudolf, Mr. CB, and finally, Katsuragi Ace. The paths of all three of these racers will converge here at the Japan Cup. This year, there were 4 Japanese horses participating in this race. As expected, since there were 2 Triple Crown bearers, Ace was overshadowed by them. The presence and accomplishments of these two made Katsuragi Ace only the 10th favorite out of 14 racers. But there was still a chance. Rudolf was widely reported to be in bad shape at the time, with some reports even saying that he had diarrhea. And with him being younger than the rest of the competitors on the field, he still doesn't have the same strength that most of the older racers had. Not only that, but there was also a 1-week gap from his previous race, which led to him being the number 4 favorite, the lowest he would ever be in his career. But even with Rudolf not being at 100%, that still leaves his first and greatest rival, Mr. CB, who had just come off a record-breaking win at the Autumn Tenno Show, with his familiar, common sense defying, and closer style. Not only that, but there were other horses that he had to be wary of. The second favorite was Bedtime, a British horse who was said to be G1 class, despite never being able to run in a G1 race due to being a gelding. What is that? What's a gelding? Gelding. It's a male horse that has been... Oh. I see. Right. The second favorite was Bedtime, a British horse who was said to be a G1 class despite never being able to run in a G1 race due to being dequipped. The third favorite was the American turf racer, Majesty's Prince, who was said to be the second coming of the legendary racer John Henry. But with everyone's attention on the favorites, maybe, just maybe, this could work to Ace's advantage. His jockey, Katsuichi Nishiura, had a plan. This was the jockey who helped him secure his first victory against Mr. CB, and after all this time spent working with each other, he knew him like the back of his hand. He knew that Ace was bad with crowds, tending to lose composure at the cheers of the large amount of spectators in the stands. Knowing he couldn't make a crowd of rowdy fans just disappear, he decided to lessen the overbearing noise by trying to put a menko on Ace. He would have placed it over the head of Katsuragi Ace, hoping that it would muffle most of the noise. The sentiment was felt by Ace. The world might be against him, but at least Nishiura was there to support him, just like back at the Kyoto Shimbunhai and all the races after. With him by his side, he would show them all what he is truly capable of. His rebellion was about to begin. So, this is it. Who will become the victor of the 1984 Japan Cup? The Divine Emperor, Symboli Rudolf, the end closer who defied the common sense, Mr. CB, or the one who will prove everyone wrong, Katsuragi Ace. It's time to finally witness history once again. The fourth Japan Cup begins. Mr. CB, as always, stays in the far back, while Rudolf decides to wait a little further ahead, taking on the placement of a late surger. And Ace does what he's always done, taking the front of the pack, enacting that familiar frontrunner style that he's always done, not letting a single horse pass him. As they enter the backstretch, Ace is around 10 to 20 meters ahead, doing his very best to keep his positioning. It was only in the fourth corner that Ace's runaway, his grand escape, started to diminish. And as the international racers started to approach Ace did not stop. Even as Bedtime and Rudolph came up to try and steal the gold, Ace did not stop running. Ace did not falter. He kept his place. He continued to hold on to his position. There's only one thing Katsuragi Ace can do. Run. Run like his life depends on it. He's been through a lot on his journey, on his quest to become a champion. Time and time again, fate would deal him the worst hand. Even so, his relentless soul continues to burn on as he blazes down the track. Worthless. A nobody. Someone who should have given up a long time ago. The shadow of Mr. CB. A trash horse. Those were the titles and unsaid names given to him. Let them continue to call him that, because while champions come and go, there is only one ace in all of Japan.
反逆のため今全てをかける炎よりも熱く燃えてみせるぜ桂木エースだ
この中からルドルフが来るかルドルフだ黒目リードオンだルドルフだそしてミスター CB そこに回ったミスター CB はまだ中段だここからが切れるぞさあ先頭にはまだ桂木エースヘッドタイム来ているヘッドタイム来ているルドルフ来たルドルフ頑張れ桂木エースが頑張った桂木エースが粘る桂木エースを追ってルドルフレッドタイム桂木来る外からマジェスティーズ桂木エースが勝ちました桂木エースが逃げ切りです馬場木口そして2年馬ランキングの利点を生かしました
A great escape. From start to finish, Katsuragi Ace maintained the lead for the entirety of the race. Katsuragi Ace was Japan's first ever Japan Cup champion. Katsuragi Ace proved everyone who doubted him wrong against the undefeated Triple Crown bearer, against his longtime rival. Ace finally made history. He finally became a champion. Speaking of Ace's two rivals, Rudolf would finish at a respectable 3rd place, and Mr. CB, in an ironic twist of fate, would place terribly, just like Ace did, all the way back at the Kikka show. Mr. CB's 10th place to Katsuragi Ace's 20th. It was Mr. CB's worst performance throughout his entire career. This Japan Cup was Katsuragi Ace's best performance, his magnum opus. Even if people said Rudolph's showing at the Japan Cup was one of the best performances he gave during his life, he still only placed 3rd. His undefeated win streak is finally broken, while Katsuragi Ace finally brought down the crown bearers. In another life, Symboli Rudolf, while feeling frustrated and disappointed, would have felt nothing but respect and happiness for seeing his rival finally get the win he deserved. How he finally proved everyone who doubted him wrong, once and for all. Surely that's how Okabe and Rudolf felt at the time. Perhaps a tad bit more frustrated, but overall accepting of the loss. That's the thing. Okabe wasn't frustrated. He was furious. Hi, so, you kind of realize, but Legend Maker 2 is being split into 2 parts. I'm gonna be honest, this is probably gonna be a continuing thing for most of the Legend Makers because, there's a lot of information. Now for, the Symbolic Rudolph thing, it might be, well, it will be split to at least 2 parts. This might be a good opportunity to, explore other horses that are part of, well, the Legend Makers, right? It gives more screen time to the rivals that made the Legend Makers, more amazing during their era, right? So we'll see how this goes. And personally, I kind of like how part 1 turned out, so we'll see if part 2 lives up to the hype. Although, to be personally honest, I think the conclusion of Katsuragi Ace's journey right here is really good. There's not... Rudolph's story won't really top Katsuragi Ace's story because well, a little spoiler, Rudolph's story is kind of boring compared to Ace's, but hey, we'll see in part 2. Part 2 will be released, well, I won't promise anything, but I will release it right after. I have all the lines recorded, so now it's just, editing it out and maybe fixing a couple of things that I don't agree on and re-recording some stuff, etc, right? So anyways, hopefully you guys won't have to wait too long. Depends on my mood. I'm kind of a procrastinator. I kind of do things when I feel like it, which is really bad, but hey, what can you do, right? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you around.